Anyone who says you can't find America's history in a bar has never been to this place. Actually, they've probably never been to any of the places we filmed, but I digress. Anyway, this is Fraunces Tavern, the oldest drinking place in all of New York, and one of the oldest tippling houses in the entire country.
Though, not the oldest continuously serving. That's Bridge Cafe. Aside from its longevity, Fraunces has also had a very significant place in America's history. Something we'll learn about in a bit. The tavern, which is also a museum, sits at 54 Pearl Street in New York City, surrounded by the high rises of Lower Manhattan.
We were lucky enough to catch up with the museum's education director, Jennifer Patton, who guided us through this place's rich history.
The building was originally built as a mansion, as a luxurious house for the Delancey family. Stephen Delancey was one of the richest residents of New York City as a merchant. And so he started building it in 1719. However, once it was completed, they never lived here. Samuel Fraunces purchased it in 1762, and he opened it as the Queen's Head Tavern. Considering that it was originally built as a mansion, it was a very large tavern compared to most of the other taverns in the area. So he was able to use different spaces for public dining, for private dining, and meeting spaces. The long room was the most important room for special occasions to be rented out.
Though simply a tavern, the Queen's Head was also an important place in its community.
Because you come to a tavern, you find out what's happening in the community. There would be broadsides or newspapers posted there that you could read yourself or would be read aloud to the room because many could not read. And this is where you're finding out about new laws being passed, new taxes happening, different announcements of escaped slaves or chairs for sale or a new play happening. This is where you're learning all. It's the message board in Starbucks. I mean, basically that's the same idea.
Sam Fraunces himself also attracted people with certain ideals about the country, the rule of England, and about forming their own nation.
He definitely sided with the patriot side, the rebel side. So the tavern reflected that, that many patriots would come here and sort of talk about different ideas of breaking away from the British government. New York was very divided. They had a lot of loyalists, a lot of patriots, a lot of people in the middle, and taverns reflected that. So there would be loyalist taverns and non-political taverns, but Fraunces Tavern most definitely was on the patriot side of things.
In those turbulent days before the Revolution, Fraunces Tavern also frequently served some of the most notable men of that time.
Before the Revolutionary War began, different notable people, John Adams and George Washington, most definitely frequented here.
And the tavern also had a part in Evacuation Day, the day that the English left New York, signaling the end of the war for independence.
So on November 25th, 1783, this is Evacuation Day, when all the British leave the harbor, or they get on their ships and start to leave, and George Washington parades back into the city with his officers and soldiers, and actually a large party was held here at Fraunces Tavern, hosted by Governor George Clinton in honor of Washington's return.
The party was lively and occupied the entire building, not just the ground floor. George Washington himself made 13 toasts of hot buttered rum to everything from the American Army to the kings of Sweden and France. General Washington also used the long room on the second floor to bid farewell to his officers before resigning his commission and heading back to Mount Vernon.
So this is the room where George Washington said farewell to his officers. It was a very brief occasion. They did not sit down and have a meal. He basically just gathered them. They believe it's about 40 in attendance. This is right before he will be going to resign as Commander-in-Chief of the Continental Army.
At its very core, Fraunces is also just a tavern. Remember that they drank back then, just like we do now.
People drank a lot. Spruce ale was very popular. For more luxurious taste, Madeira wine was a huge import from the West Indies and different parts of Europe. And rum, once also a big import from the West Indies.
While it stopped really being a colonial tavern in the late 1700s and it fell into disrepair, it was bought by the Sons of the Revolution and restored. Now it houses museum space and galleries on the second and third floors, while using the ground floor as tavern space, just like Sam Fraunces did.
I don't want to say that they continue the tradition of serving volumes of alcohol like they used to, but this place has 4 bars stuffed into it. The tavern is currently run by the Porterhouse Company from Ireland, and they offer space reflective of colonial America.
They also offer a huge assortment of beer, whiskey, and a full kitchen. In all fairness, the real Fraunces Tavern ceased existence 220 years ago, but what stands now is a reminder of where we were from. Look, we're not Quakers. We didn't arrive in the New World and drink distilled water. We drank beer and rum and Madeira wine and anything else we could find.
Sam Fraunces Tavern is a great reminder of that past. Like a little kid yelling, "Look at me, look at me!" The place begs you to explore our history at every turn, and if you care at all about where we came from, you'll delightfully let yourself be taken in by it. With any luck, the people you came in with will have to search the whole building for you, only to find you in the flag gallery, contemplating the symbols used 240 years ago to free our country from tyranny.
It's not often you can contemplate these things and then retire for a drink. Fraunces Tavern is one of those few places that truly brings our past alive.